I just feel like crying.
Oh.
My wife the other night, she's curled up next to me, and I could tell she wasn't feeling well. And I was thinking, I went to visit my mom, and she's all curled up.
Oh, jeez.
Go away,
Two of them like that?
My dog dies. My two best, one old friend. I think I told you,
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, man. I just, this fire thing up in the.
Oh yeah.
That and the whole, all the nonsense we're going through nationally with all this Trump nonsense. It's just like one thing after another. I just, God, thank God for sports,
Yeah.
Relief. Anyway, I got Vida's number here. He's ready to go. Hopefully. We hope he's there.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. He is a good guy.
Here.
I thought we talked to him a little bit about the World Series, but we could also, talk a little bit about his career and some of the memories he has. He's got some great stories.
Oh, yeah. It works.
All right.
That's
So
phone number?
Yeah, 415-531 9588. 9588.
All right.
There it is.
Let's do this.
531-9588. There. Oh, please pick up Vida.
Hey, Vida.
Hey,
it's Edward Brown. Oh, I gotta get my own mic here.
Hey, Vida, it's Bruce. How you doing, man?
I'm good, guys. How you doing?
Good. You're good. Nice day. Beautiful day. Well, you want to just record the intro afterwards?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll just get right into it here.
All right. Here
we
go. Thanks again, Vida, for joining us.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, here we go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Bruce, who's on the phone?
Oh, we got a good friend of ours, former Giant, former athletic, and one of the really good guys in the world of baseball. And he was a star at a young age and was on the cover of Life and Time and Sports Illustrated. I'm talking about the Blue Blazer, Vida Blue. Good to have you with us, V. What's going on, man?
Good morning. I'm good, guys. Today's fair, huh?
It is. I want to, we want to talk to you a little bit about the World Series and everything that's been going on, but I'd be remiss, and Edward and I would both be remiss if we didn't ask you a little bit about your career. I remember when I was in college, the 1972 World Series, watching those games, and between the Reds, who were just starting to embark on that great run that they had, and you guys were in the midst of, your great run, you had about 7 or 8 guys that were in the Hall of Fame. You had 7 or 8 All-Stars. I mean, the names, Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, Raleigh Fingers, yourself.
Pete Rose. No, he's not there yet.
Ricky Jackson. I mean, what was it like playing? What was it like being a young guy playing?
Can't leave out Tony Perez.
Oh, of course. Tony Perez, one of my favorites. But
can't leave out Joe Morgan, man.
Joe Morgan, the Bay Area Zone. The Bay Area Zone.
Well, I don't know. I was 22. I turned 22 that summer during the Championship World Series. But you can look out on the field and see the greatness on both sides. And arguably, there are a couple of guys on each team that still should be that should end up being Hall of Fame. I mean, Kempton there, he's a borderline guy. You think of Dave Concepcion, he's a borderline guy.
Salamando.
Those guys are short side of that. That's borderline guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. But just thinking back to 72, Bruce, that was one other important thing that took place, at least for me during the 72 World Series. I got a chance to meet this guy named Jackie Robinson, which was so cool. He threw the first pitch, and later on, unfortunately, that November he passed away. So for some strange reason, I was back at my mom's house in Louisiana. I booked a flight to New York, and I went to Jackie Robinson's memorial service, and it was so big for me because my grandfather was a big time Dodgers fan because of Jackie Robinson. So was a lot of African American folks throughout the country, and they rode his motorcade went all through Harlem, all up through parts of Manhattan, and back to a former wrestling place. But I remember all the guys there, the Craig Robinson, and Joe Morgan, and Willie Mays, and players, stars of the game at that time. Willie Stargers, I think all those guys are there, but I felt compelled to go back to his service, and he was so deep when I got a chance to meet him. I just had to say, "Nice to meet you, sir," and ask for his autograph and nothing. But that I do remember. But back to the World Series. You never know. World Series games are so unpredictable. You hear the managers talk about, doing the things that got them, that are going to continue to do those things, and that just so happened. That's what's been happening, because I think Houston has the number one offense in Major League Baseball. So if you would figure that they would score runs, but the Dodgers always brag about their pitching, and they always say good pitching notifies that that has not been the case.
Yeah, the first, the game 5 was just ridiculous.
That was crazy. It was like a video game. I mean, I'm watching that thing, but I don't know about you, but there was a surreal quality to that. Every time I'm turning around, somebody's hitting a home run, somebody's wrapping a double up the gap. I mean, have you ever seen a game quite like that in the postseason?
Yeah, well, you got to consider Minute Park. It is a hitter's park, but they always talk about, like I said, good hitting times, good pitching, and that has not been the case. That's what makes the World Series so much fun. You can get that. I mean, you can predict that, and if you sit on your edge and see. I think twice, Game 5, I think I changed channels. I said, I better check back and see what the heck's going on. I missed Weeks home run, which tied it up. I think you're going to they had 5-5. But I didn't last night game, but night 4 game, and I'm like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. Well, also, these home runs. I mean, some of these home runs are going 480 feet, so they're going to go out pretty much, except for the polo grounds, they're going to go out anywhere.
Yeah, that's what still. Now, but if teams at home are looking at these guys, go that, oh wow, we can hit this guy is hittable,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You think about
Kershaw.
We can't get this guy out. I'm talking about Henry Jansen from the Dodgers.
Yeah. So,
He's been exposed. I think the fear of him has been removed. So, what do you do in a Game 6 situation back in LA tomorrow? What do you do? All hands on deck. Just give me one hitter. Sometimes that's all it takes. Just give me one out to make the difference of a ball game. But that has not been happening. I don't think it's been like a 1, 2, 3 inning on either side, so maybe twice throughout the whole Game 5 for sure.
I harken back again to that 72 series because 6 of those games were decided by a single run, and that meant that Raleigh Fingers was involved in just about every one of those games.
By the way, I've got to say, my favorite memory of the 72 World Series had to be with the called strike on Johnny Bench. It was supposed to be an intentional walk.
Yeah, that's right.
That was so good.
Intentional walk. That was Dick Peter's idea, and that kind of caught me by surprise. You talk about strategy, how to pitch the guy, where you're going to attack his weak spot and not give him anything good to hit. But that was pretty cool. I can still see it. Still Morgan yelling at Johnny, look out!
And I'm looking at Johnny Bench going, and he's looking going, what?
Well, yeah. For those that don't remember, this is going back a few ways. He was.
So happened. I was with Raleigh Fingers over the weekend. We did Minnesota those autographs.
Oh yeah.
I got to visit with Raleigh Fingers and my ex-teammate Mike Epstein was there.
Yeah, sure.
He had a little reunion thing for us, and I really enjoyed it then. And it had snowed the night before as I flew into Minneapolis, so it was still freezing. And I'm like, how do you people do this?
Yeah.
That's right.
To the weather that we have today, I think we pay for our weather.
That's true.
We do. We pay a dear price for it. What was that clubhouse like, though? Everybody talks about how the A's were always battling and fighting among each other. You had all these different personalities, whether it was Reggie Jackson or Billy North or Raleigh Fingers or Joe Rudy. I mean, there were some real mild-mannered guys, and then there were some intense guys, and then you had Dick Williams of all people, who was just trying to keep everything in order. I mean, that must have been quite an experience for a youngster.
Bruce, it was. You guys, this is a family show, so I would try to.
Yeah.
Well, along with Dick Williams, he was tough like that when it came to fines and discipline of his locker room. He wanted everybody to know that he was the manager, and respecting him as a manager. But you could left out the other most important guys. That was Charlie Finley, the owner of the team. And this guy, I described him as being a combination of Ed Turner, Al Davis, George Steinbrenner, and Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Not politically correct.
You got the trifecta, the fourfecta.
So choose your poison.
Yeah.
He actually wanted you to change your name, didn't he? I mean,
yeah, he did. Well, of course, because we had Jim Catfish Hunter. We had John Blue Blue. We had Bernie Captain Campanera. And I don't know if your listeners remember, guys. We talked a long time ago. The guy on our team, his name was Jumbo Gymnast.
Oh, yeah.
About 6'6", had to weigh like 280. He was like a 7.7 legs. And of course, he came up with this idea about changing my name. And a lot of folks don't know that I'm named after my dad. I'm Vida Blue Jr. So unfortunately, my father passed away my senior year in high school, which obviously happened to a lot of kids. And so he never saw me play Major League professional baseball, period. I got drafted, made it to the assignment contract, played a year in Burlington, Iowa. Next year, I was in Double-A, the Southern League in Birmingham, Alabama. The year after that, I went back to Iowa, the great state of Iowa. I was based in Des Moines, Iowa, and we were the Iowa Oaks. And I got called up that September on that September call-ups, and to a no-hitter against the Minnesota Twins in 1970. And I made even 71 going into my 4th year pro ball. So, and story goes, when we changed the name, it just looked, Smitty, I was named after my dad, like I just shared the story. I'm not going to change all to my name. Not even for you, I'm not doing that. And it got out in the newspaper that he offered me Kid Grant. I don't remember him.
Hey, find it. Wait, hold on. We want to continue that story. We have to cut to a quick break here. And I know you're going to know the answer, but you can't answer until we get back. Okay, Bruce, I know this one too. In fact, our honor of our guest, Vida Blue, we have the trivia theme is 1970s World Series. If the 1974 World Series saw the Oakland Athletics for the 3rd consecutive time, who helmed the Athletics in 1974? Who helmed? Basically, who was the manager?
Oh, who's the manager?
I'm afraid I trick you with that. Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back. Yeah. Right. Sorry about that. They give us these hard breaks. And what's funny is I actually put these together before Vida was our guest.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah. I was just thinking about Alvin Dark. He passed away a couple years ago.
Oh, you just gave the answer. And Vida didn't know it either.
Yeah, the only manager to win pennants on both sides of the bay.
On the bay.
62 and A's in 74.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I thought that was going to be the trivia question.
That would be a good trivia question. Yeah.
Let's see. The next 2 questions are kind of interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see if you get that. Let me just save the.
What's going on today, Vida? What are you up to?
Oh, nothing. I'm actually going to go do some shopping at the little mall over here in Livermore. It's nice and quiet out here in Trade, so I'm going to go in and pick up some things I've got to do. I'm going to Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm an avid golfer, so I'm going to play in the Willie Stargell Memorial Tournament.
Oh, sweet.
He died of kidney failure. Maybe a liver, I'm not sure which one, but
I remember.
my wife invites me back every year to Wilmington, North Carolina. It's like a 3-day event, so.
That's an awesome place. I've been to the beach there, and it's awesome.
The waterway right there is really nice, man.
Willie is such a sweetheart. I interviewed.
Some fixed our house back there.
Yeah.
Of course, the dollar goes a lot further back there.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And the mansion, man, you go like, wow.
In fact, on the air, I'll share a cute story about Wilmington.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Here's the trivia question. Okay, here we go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. First trivia question. The 1974 World Series saw the Oakland Athletics for the 3rd consecutive time. Who's the...
Everybody's laughing because he remembers. He was there.
Who helmed?
Who managed?
I don't know who wrote that thing. Who skippered the Athletics in 1974?
Now, tell us a little story about the manager.
The big word threw me off.
Helmed. Sounds like you're a yachtsman or something.
Yachtsman, exactly. Well, first of all, give the answer.
With that big word.
Yeah. A little story about the guy. Who was it, first of all?
Oh, Alvin Dark.
Yeah. And he was from your neck of the woods, wasn't he? From Louisiana, but he was from a different world, though. Really.
He's from Louisiana. Well, when he took over the team, I had heard all these stories about how he divided the locker room in San Francisco with the black players in the corner and the white players in the corner and the white players in the corner. I don't know how true that was, but I had heard stories of such. And I don't know. I just tried to take face value, and once again respect him as a manager. But he had found, and nothing against this, I'm just sharing the story. He had found religion, and he walked around. And he carried a Bible. So, you know, in training camp, early in camp, we had a team meeting. He said, "Look, guys, I don't want to hear no profanity, no racist remarks like, amongst your baseball fan, we call each other, you crazy Pollock, you crazy Italian, so and so and so, you know." And he said, "I don't want no profanity." So throughout the course of the 74 season, and most coaches and managers, two rules: know the signals, know the signs, and always be on time. Okay. So something happened. I know I was pitching a game and I got taken out of the game, and the manager always wants you to put the ball in their hand.
Yeah.
I think I flipped it up in the air, and I'm not sure if he caught it or not, but he says after the game, I'm not sure what we want to watch the game, that he's going to fine me. I said, "Okay, how much is the fine?" So being the young, fresh, cocky son of a gun I was, I go to my local bank and get, it must have been about $3,000 in nickels, dimes, pennies, and quarters. By the way, that stuff is heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to bad boy, when the bad boys come back up my car and have me load all this stuff. I got there and I went and poured it out all over his desk. Nickels, pennies, dimes, and quarters on the manager's desk in his office. So he walks in and he comes into the light and says, "Hey, Mike, I see you got me put your sign on my desk." I said, "Thank you very much." I turned around and said, "Aren't you going to county?" He said, "No, I said, I trust you." I'm like, "Well, son of a gun, I should have just brought you a cashier's check."
I mean, if it really was, I mean, $3,000 back in 1974 for just not handing him the baseball. I mean, it's not like I've seen guys like toss it on, like drop it on the ground because they were upset. You know?
Well, it was during a game, and I showed him up. And, to take the high road, I was wrong. I should have been. But when you're that frustrated about being taken out of the game,
Sure.
Sometimes your emotions get the best of you. But again, as a young brash kid, you about have to listen when the manager coach comes out to take you out of the game. Just give him the ball. You pass over, but
There you go.
Yeah, and then of course, if you find out ahead of time you're going to get a $3,000 fine, you better get your $3,000 worth.
Yeah.
Knock his hat off or something.
There you go. Well, Vida was, you mentioned you broke in 70, you had the no-hitter, and then in 71, you just, went into another dimension. You were on the cover of Time, and you were on the cover of Sports Illustrated, all these baseball magazines. You're not even 22 years old yet. The crowds would show up, and the A's would pack it. The stadium. They'd have a sellout crowd for you. Yeah, and then the next game there will only be maybe 10,000 people. What was that like for a young guy your age from rural Louisiana? All of a sudden, you go from obscurity to being this national story overnight. I mean, how did you handle that?
I don't know, Bruce. I just kind of dealt with it. I was kind of shy and reserved at the time, but when you're on the cover of those magazines that give you national exposure, and of course, the A's were a team of that era for about a 5-year run, and we were noted for fighting, as you mentioned. We were noted for having mustaches and beards, as a lot of teams were very envious of us because they had rules that you could have facial hair, and we also wore the white shoes. But I don't know, man. It was so long ago, Bruce. But I wish every athlete could experience being at the top of the game like that. I was what they call now in sports was being in the zone. I was in the zone for a whole year, so
Yeah.
just so fortunate to have something like that happen to me. And, it seemed like yesterday, but it was 40-some years ago.
It is hard to believe.
I was going to ask you. Eventually, you ended up pitching for the Giants also, and so for a native Californian, Bay Area, for us it was really kind of fun. But for you, I mean, going from American League to National League, even though it's across the Bay, you're from Louisiana originally. I mean, did it make that much of a difference to you getting traded to, let's say, the Giants versus another team?
Well, I had established myself here in the Bay Area. I think it might have been a stroke of luck to remain in the Bay Area because I still have very fun of the there. That's why I still reside in the local area. And it was a good trade. I got traded for 6 players from the Giants, and it was time that I moved on from the A's because free agency had come about, and I had been duped into signing a contract prior to the 78 season. So Gene Tennis left via free agency, Raleigh left via free agency, Mando left via Yeah, Pitch Hunter had another. They flawed his contract, and he had immediate grandson. He ended up going to the
Yankees, right?
Yankees, and the Reggie went to Baltimore in a trade for Mike Torres and Don Bailey. Joe Rudy was at Anaheim, and so we were kind of scattered all over the area. And, I was the last remaining of the original that had won those 3 championships, but it was a good move. I found my niche here in the Bay Area, and I remained here ever since.
Yeah, let me ask you, what part of Louisiana are you from?
I grew up there in beautiful Shreveport, Louisiana. My hometown is Mansfield, Louisiana. So actually, when I go home, I actually fly to Shreveport, drive 40 miles south, going towards the southern part of the state. And but most of the games I played in baseball and football, all the schools were in Shreveport, and that was part of the district that I played in when it came to high school sports.
The reason I was asking is my daughter just transferred to Tulane. They're in New Orleans, yeah, so I just got worried. Yeah, and it's the weather, it's like they had Hurricane Harvey and all that, so she had to kind of, unfortunately, it didn't hit New Orleans directly, but she was telling me, what's this evacuation stuff,
Yeah, you see those signs all over.
Yeah.
When they say get out, get out.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's funny, I was off air, I was saying how I was going to tell the story because Vida said he should be going to Wilmington, North Carolina. So I was checking out Raleigh and Cary and Durham, potentially thinking about moving there back in '05. And I asked, I said, is there any good beaches around here? And someone said, well, just drive down to Wilmington. It's got a great beach. So I drive down there. The water's like 85 degrees. I mean, it's just phenomenal, right?
Wow.
And it's calm. And I'm in the water, and then suddenly there's this cool electrical lightning storm going on, and I'm just looking up, going, that is so cool. And I'm ready to for about 30 seconds, I'm just thinking that, right? And I'm looking to the guy next to me to say, isn't that so cool? And I'm the only one in the water. And then I realized, oh, electricity, water, yeah, that's not a good thing.
Not a good thing. Not a good thing.
High ground, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, I didn't learn the
Get out
hard
of
way.
trouble. Well, Vida came from the Deep South, and you mentioned Jackie Robinson. I mean, what a iconic figure he was, and young, African American kids and kids of all races looked up to this guy. He was sort of larger than life. He had to carry a lot of weight on his shoulders. What was it like for a young African American guy coming into baseball in the early '70s? Things had finally opened up, and the doors were being knocked down, and by that time there wasn't quite the problems that they'd had in the 1940s and 30s and before. Did you handle, but I guess it was kind of a culture shock coming from a small town, a small segregated town in Louisiana to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
My high school was all black. My church was all black. And unfortunately, Bruce, it's embarrassing to say, but it's true. In my little town at that time, and this might still happen, the cemeteries were segregated. I'm like, you're dead, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was the nature of the country at that time, and a matter of fact, the nature of the world. But when I left home and went to Burlington, Iowa, I met Italian guys. I met guys from Venezuela, guys from Dominican, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Panama, Mexico. And my one other roommate was from Puerto Rico. So in my 17 years of playing Major League Ball, I had one roommate who was from Puerto Rico. But again, if the family shows out, just continue to speak English.
Back to the here and now. Who are the guys that impress you today in baseball? Who would you, turn your television on or stop whatever you're doing just to watch this guy back?
Oh man, when it comes over, I'm a big Stanton guy.
Yeah.
I like Harper. Obviously, he's a star in the making. And but my favorite player that has the most attributes that just makes the game look so easy is Mike Trout.
I knew he was going to say it.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, he's been on. Hey,
the guy that I'm really frustrated with is Puig. I think he has just much ability, but for some reason he got distracted or got up the track there. But I don't know why. And this is just my opinion. Why the Dodgers haven't put a Manny Motor with this guy to take him out to spend some time with him to teach him how to be a major league professional.
Yeah.
good for
He has a lot of ability, man. And obviously when he first came up, he did all that stuff against the Dodgers, and he and Bumgarner have a thing going on, so that's always cool to see those guys face each other. But
Hey, if I stay with us one more time, you can't. I just got to cut to a quick break here. Sorry. Hate doing that. Okay, 1978 was a repeat of the 1977 World Series, pitting the Yankees against the Dodgers with the same result. The Yankees put the Dodgers down 4-2. Which Dodger pitcher lost 2 games in the series? That's our question, all right? Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Hey, sorry about that. Okay.
So weather nice over there? It's kind of cool over here.
No, sun is shining, Bruce.
Oh, sweet.
I don't know what
Yeah, it's about 58 out here. I tell you about, I was just telling Edward, I got one of the best surfing sessions I've had in, 10 years on
I know, but can you believe this guy goes surfing all the time? If we had his money, we'd throw ours away.
No,
I know he does. He goes north of the gate.
Yeah.
South of the gate.
North and south, yeah. But this was up north of the gate. I was out there for 3 hours until sunset, and it was so beautiful. But I came out of the water, and I mean, I'm 65 years old, and some of these waves, I was literally laughing when I got out off the wave, or just in awe, laughing, or just kind of talking to myself. Oh, what the heck did I just experience there?
That's great.
Man, I'm mad.
The surfing does the same thing to you that golf does.
Yeah.
3 or 4 hours. I'm just back there, chasing the white ball, but talking with people. I still as a solo all the time. I used to meet a lot of folks and just tag along and hit balls. I'm just out there.
Just having fun.
The whole world of hitting the golf ball.
Sweet. That's sweet.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about DH.
Well, whatever.
Yeah,
we get into it here.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks
Here we go.
All right, here we go.
Appreciate this.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101 one more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Second trivia question, 1978 was a repeat of the 1977 World Series, pitting the Yankees against the Dodgers, and with the same result. The Yankees put the Dodgers down 4-2. Which Dodger pitcher lost 2 games in the series?
I got a feeling I know that one, but I'm going to let Vida Blue, our guest, take a stab at it.
I'm going to say Bob Welch.
I would have thought that too.
I'm going to say Don Sutton.
Don Sutton is actually the answer.
That was going to be that who I thought about him too. I wasn't sure if you still on the team.
Yeah.
I just remember Reggie facing Welch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was a memorable at bat. I ran into Don Sutton this last summer. He's still broadcasting with the Braves. He pitched late in his career with the A's, and then got to pitch in the World Series again with the Angels. And quite a character, Don Sutton. You ever have any memories of going up against him in the '74 series at all, Vida?
No, I think he pitched that game 2.
Mm-hmm.
He can't pitch on pitched game 1.
Okay.
And I think we won that game 2-1, and I pitched game 2. I think I was matched up with that. I think we lost that game 3-2 or 2-1. I remember Joe Ferguson hitting a home run off me, but we split that game, and that series, those 2-game series down there, and won 3 in a row. Then go back down. I think I matched up against him in game 2 of the '74 World Series.
I think that might have been the game where Claudell Washington, the designated runner that Charlie had decided to put in the game, who was a great track star. I think that might have been the game where he got picked off.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Marsh gave him the old movie.
Yeah.
A good movie called The No Man's Land. And he did get picked off. They called him out. Yeah.
That's right. Oh, that's frustrating when you get it. You're the star runner. And
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember, when did the DH come in?
73, I think it was.
Okay, let me give you a trivia question.
Yeah, there we go.
Who was the first original designated hitter?
Oh, wasn't it Don Baylor?
No, it was a big. It was a big guy.
Come on.
Somebody.
Pops.
Yeah,
It was a Yankee player.
Oh
Is
yeah.
it Rusty Staub?
No.
He was meant in Montreal. As I answered, I forgot left.
Shoot, I think we even had that trivia question at some time back.
Big white guy. I think he played first base, kind of slow-footed, but he had good
Boo
power.
Powell.
No. Yeah. Boo Powell was a good fielder.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, but he was
for the Orioles.
He was full of foot, though.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to remember who that was. I'm trying to remember who that would be. But
I'm trying to think. Rich Scheinblum.
No.
Yeah, we'll come up with it.
Bloom.
Oh, Ron Bloomberg. Ron Bloomberg.
Yeah, Ron Bloomberg.
There you go.
There you go.
You mentioned earlier Willie Stargell, who was an absolute sweetheart. I interviewed him a couple of times. Nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. There wasn't a mean bone in that guy's body. and he died young. But he had a charisma about him, didn't he, Vadi? He had an air which people wanted to be around this guy, didn't they?
A natural leader, and I think Chuck Cheddar was still managing the team, so he kind of let him run the clubhouse, and it's like having another manager in there without you having to go in there to set down rules and regulation. And I think that's neat to have that type of guy on your ball club, and guys just kind of get in like, not supposed to like that, but he's just a silent leader. He's not a rah-rah guy. And Stars wanted to make it fun. I think he might have implemented all the uniforms that they had, and all the old-time caps with the stripes going around the caps.
Well, when we were kids, we used to practice our swings and you try to imitate it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he had a very distinctive style from Oakland, and there were 18 players on that 25-man squad that won the World Series in '79 who were either African American and he always referred to the group, the diverse group of white, black, and Latino players as family. And we are family. That was a fun.
Song came out. And teams say that, players may say it about their team, but those guys really showed it. I think teams to get together and have a barbecue at each other's homes, or just get together, go out and do fun stuff on the road. And I don't know how many teams still do that today, but I knew the age did. We ended up in the local hotel bar, and we sit there and hash about the game and talk about lifestyle choices and everything else under the sun.
Let me ask you, sorry, because I was talking about the designated hitter.
Sure.
So you played just before they changed it, and then after. So how was the transition for you? I'm trying to remember. Were you a pretty good hitter?
I had a pretty swing, I'll tell you that. Well, I hit 3 more home runs than Dwayne Kuiper.
There you go.
Dwayne Kuiper, the Giants broadcaster, for those who don't know, he had 1 home run in Cleveland. That was probably the best thing about his career.
Was this second baseman?
Yeah.
Against Steve Stone.
Against Steve, who was a pretty good pitcher at Old Cleveland's Municipal Stadium. You hit 4 homers, huh, Vida?
Yes, I did. I hit my first home run at Old Comiskey Park. In 71, when I first came up, I hit my last home run in Wrigley Field in 1980.
Wow.
Before I retired, yeah.
Wow.
Or 86, yeah.
86, you played. I remember you came up, you were with the Giants, who were just resurgent that year. They'd gone from last 100 losses to contending, and you were on Roger Craig's first Hum Baby Club. That was a fun year.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was. So I enjoyed my time in it, actually. But, going from the DH to having to hit, I had a fear most of the season that I could want to get hit with the ball. You need to know that you can get out of the way of the ball. We got to square around the butt. It's people told me I'm too hard. I don't know what that's like because I never faced myself, but I know that when I was facing somebody like Jerry Royce, he was a big left-hander from the Dodgers. Being able to square around and try to punch that ball, I had a fear like most of the season there. Maybe the second half of the season last month, so I finally got comfortable knowing that I could get out of the way if I squared around the butt. And I took pride in my butting. And 2 things that we know as pitchers, the butt side and the take side.
So you know what? I guess if you're scared of the, which I completely understand, guys throwing in the high 90s. Maybe get dressed up in catcher's gear and go up there.
Well, what I do go around there and I do clinics and talk to the kids. And most times it's the parents and they're starting to play the ball. And this is the greatest thing. I tell them what has to happen. You have to get hit. Yeah, you get hit, and you're going to say, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to let this happen to me again. So it can work both ways.
The interesting thing, though, about Vida never had, I don't think, tell me if I'm wrong, you ever had any arm problems, and he was still throwing bag practice. I remember traveling with the Giants in the late 90s. Vida would be on the trips with the team. Here's a guy in his early 50s throwing batting practice, and you were throwing some pretty good fastballs at these guys.
Well, Bruce, from 45 feet, hell, I could make a comeback.
I know, it's so funny. I was telling Billy Bean, I said, hey, if you ever need a relief pitcher, I can throw in the high 60s.
yeah, from 40 feet.
But you were a durable pitcher. I mean, you threw a lot of innings, and in those days, they let guys go. I mean, what do you think of all this age of specialization and analytics? The other night, Dave Roberts pulls his starting pitcher, Rich Hill, after just 4 innings, and Hill was just furious.
Vida would still be pitching.
Hill had 7 strikes. I tell you what, I would have got better because I put the ball in the air again. Well, you hit the nail on the head, Bruce, with the way the game is now. They want exit velocity. I'm like, who cares how fast the ball left? What else is there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of the game now, and I guess I have to give a tribute out to my mom and dad to give me the good genes, man. It was nice. It's still nice to be able to throw when I do go and work out with kids with no pain. That's the key right there. Able to throw with no pain. And I'm glad to have been a lucky guy.
Well, I guess part of it now. Did you not work out with weights?
No, they didn't have weights in the locker room.
Yeah.
My routine was do a lot of running and do a lot of stretching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did my side sessions when asked to do, and I just took now what is my day to go after, man. Like I said, I'm so fortunate to have the good genes, and it's nice to be able to grow and not have it. I have trouble getting loose.
Yeah. Oh,
Sure.
Straighten up and stand up. Yeah.
5-10 minutes to get through all of them.
I got to ask you though, in your day, when you were a kid, baseball was the sport, and that's the sport that a lot of kids, whether you were black, white, or Latino, you kind of aspired to make it in the big leagues. Today, it's a different story. And most of the kids, inner city kids, a lot of the rural kids, they're not playing football or basketball. Baseball's had a tough time attracting, especially African-American kids. The Latino kids are. But what's going on with it? Why is it so difficult to get the African-American kids today to play baseball? I mean, I imagine it's not an
I
easy.
don't know, Bruce.
Economics, I think.
The African-American kids, they're dual sport athletes, but they'll play basketball and football, baseball. I mean, they run track and football, But baseball is the third of the three. Or they'll play soccer, play basketball. Football might be third, and baseball would be their fourth choice. But of course, with the concussion factor, a lot of parents don't want the kids playing football, so a lot of kids play basketball.
But don't you think some?
I guess I should just direct this question to some of the general managers. Why aren't they going out to find African American players in the inner cities? They have the programs in South and in the Caribbean that they got all the
Little League World Series.
but I don't think they're recruiting them to be black players. I might be wrong, but
I think part of it. I'll bet part of it is economics. You for the most part, you have to buy a glove.
Well, the travel teams too. The travel teams, you have the
expensive.
equipment and finding a field. I mean, in the old days, we could play in a. You get 5 or 6 kids together. One pitcher could throw.
you're going to be strikeout.
Yeah.
Fun doing it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the nature of the world today, and let's not forget that the kids are sitting inside staring at their TV playing video games.
Not a good thing. I'm glad we grew up in a different era, aren't you, Vida?
I am too. It was like I said, but I'm glad I played when I played. I played against some great athletes, and I gave a lot to the game. The game refunded me. I mean, retrained the players by giving me a lot in turn to as a former player.
I always enjoy getting a chance to talk to you about these stories, and I do want to harken back before we let you go to Reggie Jackson, because how can you leave him out of the conversation? He's kind of been a little. You haven't heard too much about Reggie lately. He's turning 70, I think, or has turned 70. But he's
toned down.
Yeah.
He really has mellowed out a little bit. But he was our Barry Bonds. We can go about our business and do our job. Joe Rudy hits the 2-out game-winning double. The next day, that line says, Reggie says, So he took the pressure off of all of us. And he's quite the guy, though. He knew all the stats up to the minute. Hey, anybody that can give themselves their own nickname and call themselves Mr. October, and you got to be something special, and he is that.
Yeah.
Right, thanks again for joining us on Sports Econ.
You're welcome, guys. My pleasure.
Oh, loved it, Vida. Loved it.
You make me comfortable. I enjoy the company. Don't forget all it takes is one call.
You're a sweetheart,
Thank you.
man. Have a great time in North Carolina. Vida. All right, the one and only Vida Blue, who, of course, with that name alone, you can't forget Vida Blue, but just his style, his personality, very distinctive. And it's been a pleasure.
In fact, he was the first one, I think, that just put his first name on it.
I interviewed Vida first time in 1978 when he was with the Giants, and I was kind of nervous. He said, let's sit down, let's talk. And we sat down on the Candlestick Field on our rear ends and did this interview.
It's because he comes from Louisiana.
Yeah,
friendly.
very, very informal.
All right. So I wish you would have stayed on for just this last question.
Yeah.
This is a little harder.
Oh boy.
The 1971 World Series pitted the Baltimore Orioles against a team that had not been to the World Series in 11 seasons, the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was a major upset as the Pirates won the series 4-3. Why were the Orioles heavily favored to win the series?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of a question,
Sure.
right? But that's our question. Basically, in 1971, why were the Orioles heavily favored to win the 1971 World Series against the Pirates? Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will be right back with some closing comments.
Good question.
All right, so we're going to.
That's great. That is always so much
It's
fun.
so good.
Yeah. That's fun. Yeah. Text it real quick.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. All right.
Was that a cell phone we were calling?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, that was his. I think it's his home, but it sounded like a home.
Yeah, it
Sounded
sounded like
a
a landline.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Where we go?
Boy, after the second World Series, the third one must have been boring to win it.
What's that? To win it?
No, just-
New message. Why can't I start this message? New message. Yes. Okay, here we go. All right. No idea who this is. I'm curious what's going on.
Hey Bruce, it's Lowell Cohn at
Oh
11
my
in the morning
gosh.
on Monday, October 30. I have a question to ask you that goes back years. It involves Frank Robinson, Gary Lavelle, and Monty Stickles.
Oh yeah.
You're the only person I think who could probably answer that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you sure got
I
it.
gotta call him back.
Yeah. There you go, little friend. Have we had the little one?
No, he's retired. Hey, Lowell, sorry, I was right in the middle of recording something, but that's cool. Yeah, you want to know about the specifics about the Frank Robinson, Monty Stickles, and Broglio, right? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Mm.
Hello?
Yes, I was. No. Okay. What I remember was that Frank had pulled Gary Lavelle, I believe. And it wasn't a popular move with Lavelle. He was upset about it. And it turned out to be a bad move in terms of, the next guy, whoever it was, came in, gave up a game-winning hit. Frank was furious. And he didn't like Lavelle to begin with. And Monty was known, as you may know, for hanging out late at the games. He'd show up late. Monty usually, liked to have a beer or two, so he'd have a little bit of a heater going. So he was kind of, when Monty had a beer going, he was sort of ornery. He was kind of argumentative. And Monty didn't really care much for baseball, and he certainly didn't like Frank because he thought Frank was too abrupt and too caustic. So we get down there, and there's just a couple of us, Dick Draper, myself, a few other people. Yeah, and Monty, that's right. And Monty asks this question, and Frank just goes off on him. And then Monty follows up and asks him another thing, and then he says, "Pardon me, Frank." And then Frank says, "Pardon my ass," and he says, "Fuck your ass." And, "You want to fuck me in the ass? You want to, I'll tell you." Yeah, he goes, "I'll tell you what, you take that and stick it up your fucking, ass and get the fuck out of this office right now." same to fucking you. Get out of here, you fucking bum. And Monty's like, I'm not a bum. Hey. Yeah, get it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And Frank says, pardon my ass. And it, yeah, pardon my ass. And then Monty says, fuck your ass. Yeah, that's what he said. And Frank looks up and he's kind of half come out of the chair. He goes, you want to fuck me in the ass? You want to fuck me in the ass? I'll tell you, you stick that up your fucking ass and get out of this fucking locker room. Don't you ever come in this fucking office anymore. And then Monty goes, fuck you. Saying the fuck you, fucking bum. And the only reason I remember this is because I had it on tape, and unfortunately with all the outtakes of, athletes screaming or yelling or using expletive deleted, my mind has a memory for all this nonsensical minutia, and it's stuck with me. So it was an ugly night. And Frank, yeah, it might have been. I seem to remember it was. Yeah, it might have been. I seem to remember it was a night game, but regardless, Frank didn't like Monty. Monty certainly didn't like Frank. I mentioned Monty's name to Frank maybe a year later, and Frank just gave me that stare, the Black Panther stare, like, don't even go there. Don't even go there. Monty, I mentioned Frank to Monty, and Monty just shook his head and kind of mumbled something like, motherfucker. Monty was a guy, Monty used to work as a bouncer outside a nightclub, and he did this just for fun, where he could, keep people out of the club that he didn't want to go in, just by what their manner or the way they looked. And one time, this big, husky African-American guy comes in, and Monty puts his hand on his chest. He goes, where do you think you're going? He goes, I'm going in the club. He goes, not like that, you're not. And he says, what are you, the guy running the club? And he goes, yeah, I'm the guy running the club. Get your ass out of here. And the guy sort of swats Monty's hand away. Monty says he took a pop at the guy, and the guy's head did a little swivel. And Monty thought, oh, shit, I'm in trouble. And the two of them were rolling around on the ground. This guy got the better of Monty. But Monty loved to fight. He was a dirty player, and he loved to scrap. And the funny thing about him was he was one of the brightest, well-read, well-educated athletes I've ever met. But there was a side of him that was almost like a Dr. Jekyll or a Mr. Hyde, and it would come out with alcohol, or it would come out because he liked to scrap. And I'm not sure where that came from, but it served him well on the football field because he was probably lengthened because of the fact that, he got under guys' go. I mean, he told me a story about how once he really irritated this player, and the player was getting more and more distracted and more upset. Monty kind of went over to the referee and he goes, hey, watch this guy. The next play, he's really coming after me. And so Monty spat at the guy, and the guy took a swing at Monty and got kicked out of the game. The guy was furious, and he wanted to kill Monty after that. So that's the kind of thing Monty would do, He would irritate people, and he was an interesting guy. I sat next to him during the Joe Montana Dwight Clark catch, and he just had a running commentary going, and it was highly entertaining. You remember a guy named Rob Navius? Yeah, he was, and he ended up working for years with NASA. He was the voice of NASA television. Rob was sitting to my left, and he was just a bundle of nerves and constantly on the phone. And I was doing a little freelance work. I just gotten blown out of this job in New York, and I was back home and kind of in between things. And I'm sitting next to Monty on my right. So it was quite a menagerie. Watching this game with Monty and his constant commentary, and Rob, with his every 5 minutes he was on the phone doing an update, and he was moving around and bobbing around and making little comments. It was really, I miss those days. I really do. I really do. Yeah. Sorry. Get the fuck out of this office. Don't ever come back in this office anymore. Yeah. Don't ever come back here. Yeah. And Monty says, same, my pleasure, same to fucking you. Yeah. Yeah. out of here, you bum. And Monty goes, says, I'm not a bum. Yeah, you know, are you? And then he says, you finished? Are you done? All right, guys, what do you? And Frank looks at us like he's all calm. He goes, all right, guys, what do you want to know? Yeah. He looks at Monty, and then Monty's left, and he looks at us. He goes, okay, guys, what do you want to know? Oh yeah. Oh yes, he did. He left. Yeah. 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 Yeah, he might have. You know, Monty was a little hard on himself. He was. Oh, he knew where the soft spot was, and I knew a guy who used to date Monty's daughter, a young guy, and he said Monty was a frightening character. When he'd come to the door, Monty would say, "You're going out with my daughter tonight." He says, "What's your background? Where are you from? You know, what do you do for a living? You know, yeah." But then he said Monty actually turned out to be a sweetheart. But for the first couple of times, he said he was afraid that Monty was going to pop him in the face. Oh yeah. Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it. Yeah, it's Bruce McGowan, all one word, MAC, small g, OWAN, no capitals. Bruce McGowan at Comcast.net. And by the way, our mutual friend Rich Welkoff is doing really well. He's living up in Petaluma. He's enjoying his retirement, trying to figure out what to do with his life, but he's going to be doing some traveling soon. So we should. Yeah, he sold his house in Corvadera. They moved to Petaluma. And Christine just didn't like Moran, and you know, it's kind of tough on him socially, but they're getting kind of used to the surroundings, and you know, Rich is keeping himself busy with several activities, some public speaking, some work with Whistle Stop. They're going to travel over to Asia in a couple of months. He's going to go to Vietnam after that for a couple of months. He really wants to see the world and do some things he never had a chance to do. So, but one of his best buddies just passed, and he's really taken it hard. It was a sudden, well, it wasn't really sudden. The guy had been sick for a while, and so a mutual friend of mine too. And so we were kind of threading on the phone about it. And, you should give Richie a call sometime. You have his home phone? Yeah, give him a call. He'd love to hear from you, Lola. It would mean a lot to him. I'm doing okay. I'm going through some tough. I'm working at KCBS at night. Wife is fighting a tough cancer prognosis, but she's not in any danger right now. She's working and got a great attitude. My mom is starting to fade away. She's very close to the end, but she's 94. And I had, so we should feel blessed that they've been around. I've had some other things that have been going on. I've been kind of a basket case lately, but you go through. My dad always said you go through these cycles of life. It's part of. You just kind of it's kind of when I go surfing. I do a lot of surfing. You get stuck in a big swell, and you wait for it to pass. You dive under the wave. You take a deep breath, hold your breath, calm down. That's what you do. You just don't worry about this shit. As we get older, I think it doesn't get any easier. But I think we learn how to handle it somehow a little bit better. At least I think we do. I'm not sure sometimes. Yeah, what a good day. I'm so glad to hear from you, Lon. I'm so glad. I really look forward to reading your columns when they get published. I've always loved your style, the personal nature, and just the unique way that you express yourself. It's very easy to recognize. And you've always been one of my favorite writers, and I'm glad you're still doing it. So keep it up. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was. Oh, he was. He was a tough guy from the inner city, and he would test you. He would test your manhood. If you stood up to him, he respected you. If you backed down, he kind of thought he could lord over you. But he was a great manager. He was an interesting guy, and you guys had a unique relationship. I know you enjoyed your interactions with him. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. He was from a tough neighborhood, a tough era, and not the easiest guy to get to know. But boy, what a distinctive personality, though. Oof. Yeah, so good talking to you. Hey, thank you, my friend. You take care. I look forward to reading your piece. That'll be fun. All right. Bye-bye. We should get a little on sometime. He's great.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I meant to catch up with him. He's always been one of my favorite guys. He's such a, he's a Jew, a New York Jew, and he's got that kind of angst and that kind of,
How old is he?
probably, God, Lowell's got to be about close to 70. Yeah, close to it. Maybe not quite.
Yeah, no, he writes pretty well.
It's a good writer. Good writer.
Okay, so we'll close this out and then we'll do the.
Yeah, sounds good.
There we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Third and final trivia question. The 1971 World Series pitted the Baltimore Orioles against a team that had not been to a World Series in 11 seasons. Remember the 60s?
Sure. Remember this World Series very well, yeah.
So it was a major upset as
Yes.
the Pirates won the series 4-3. Why were the Orioles heavily favored to win that series?
Well, they had won the 2 previous American League titles. They'd been beaten by the Mets in '69, and then they'd swept I think they'd actually won 4 out of 5 from the Mets. They had Frank Robinson and Brooks Robinson and Dave McNally and Jim Palmer. I mean, this was a team that was replete with stars. Pittsburgh was pretty darn good, but they didn't have the pitching. They had Roberto Clemente and Willie Stargell. Clemente he was the MVP of that series. And that's why it was kind of an upset. And that was, a year and a half later, Roberto was killed in that plane wreck. So,
but you're kind of close. Okay, so the Orioles. I mean, you named a bunch of stuff, so we'll give you credit.
Well, yeah. I mean, they were a favorite. They should have won it, and I think they had a 3-1 lead. They might have had that much of a lead.
I try to remember that.
It was a 7-game series. Pittsburgh had to go to Baltimore, and I believe they won the last 2 games at Memorial Stadium. And Roberto Clemente had just a spectacular series. I think he had something like 421. He was the MVP.
Well, they have here. The answer is the Orioles had 4 20-game winners.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
McNally and Palmer and Mike Cuellar. How could we forget him? And then there was a guy named Wally Bunker, I think. Might have been Wally Bunker.
No, anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so here's our thoughts for the day. It isn't the mountains ahead to climb that wear you out. It's the pebble in your shoe.
Oh boy.
And you said that?
That's true. Whenever I go surfing, Muhammad Ali said that.
Yeah.
Sounds like he took it from some Eastern philosopher.
Probably.
Yeah.
And Pele said, the more difficult the victory, the harder, the greater the happiness in winning. That's true too.
He's a shining star.
Yeah.
In more ways than just the obvious.
Yeah. All right. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long. Okay, so
That's
that's our
good show.
last one. Yeah, and then we'll just do the 2 minutes.
Sounds like okay. So what's your day like today?
Just a lot of paperwork stuff.
Paper.
Always get so busy.
Paper. There is no golden Aqaba, only paper. Lawrence lied.
Where's that come
Lawrence of Arabia.
from? Oh, okay.
Anthony Quinn.
Yeah.
This is not good. In 10 days, I'll be back with arms, with men, with gold, with everything. 10 days.
10 days.
And you will take the children with you.
Okay.
Why not?
But can you use Zorba the Greek?
Zorba the Greek. That is funny. If you watch that, that's a black and white kind of obscure film with, it was almost done almost like an amateurish sort of way of doing it. A terrific film. Anthony Quinn, love that guy. Yeah, he was. He always played Latin personalities. He was really good at specializing in foreign accents and so on. Yeah.
I'm sure he's passed on by now.
Oh my God, yeah. Many years, yeah.
All right, here we go. Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sport topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Today's show is going to be fun because we're going to have a guest on we've had in the past.
Yeah, one of my good friends, just a really interesting and fascinating and ebullient, outgoing guy. Vida Blue, former Major League pitcher, former Cy Young hitter, who pitched for many years for the Oakland A's and for the San Francisco Giants. And other teams, he pitched for a few other clubs too. So he's going to join us and talk a little about the World Series and his career, and I think you'll enjoy the comments and the stories. Yeah.
He's always fun having on.
He is. He's just full of life. And Vida means life. The word Vida means life. And
is that right?
It does. In Spanish, I believe, it means life. And he has a lot of that. I mentioned the word ebullience. It's like somebody with moonbeam or sunbeams going out of their fingers. I mean, that's Vida. You're around him and he just livens up the room.
Now, are either of his parents of Spanish or Mexican?
I don't believe so, but I may be wrong. I don't think so. But his dad, I believe, he loved some of the Latin terms, and Vida, I believe, means life.
Yeah, because he's Vida Jr.
That's right, Vida Blue Jr. That's very good. You're right.
Yeah. All right. Each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question, and in honor of today's guest, it's going to be 1970s World Series.
Fun time.
And I'm sure both of you will.
So we'll defer to Vida on some of those questions. He knows it better than I do.
No, I think you do. Okay. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding 7.75%, secured by California real estate, mostly in the Bay Area, at conservative loan to values. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. You should check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. They also have some webinars going on.
What is a webinar?
Well, basically on your computer, instead of having to show up for a meeting, you can just kind of it's like being in the classroom.
Sure.
But you get to see it on your computer, and then they'll go through the slides.
Interesting.
Which is pretty good, because if you're all over the country, it's easier to do it.
Easier to do, yeah.
Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com, and don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
All
right, that's it.
That's it, my friend.
Thanks, boss.
My pleasure.
You the best.
That's so funny. But Lowell wanted to know